Welcome to another episode of Rich Politics with me, your host, Richard Taylor. Well, they've rebranded. They've just had their conference. They're polling on 5% and they're standing in 2 by-elections. Joining me to discuss this today is the leader of Reform Party, Richard Tice. Richard, welcome to Rich Politics.
It's great to be with you. Thank you very much for having me, and look forward to chatting about what we think is going on in the world today. It feels a bit like madness, doesn't it, at the moment?
Rich, it's completely mad what we're seeing happening. And it's hard to believe, if you go back 10 years ago and we told people what was going to be happening right now, they think we were absolutely crazy. Getting right into it then, we're going to talk about the by-elections that you're standing in a few moments and what the Reform Party's kind of plans are ahead of any elections that may or may not be called within the next 20 months or so. What do you make of the news this morning that care workers potentially, if they don't get vaccinated, then they will be sacked from their jobs? I mean, what do you make of that?
Look, it's absolutely appalling. We've been against mandatory vaccines from day one for anybody. Look, our position has always been clear. We're pro-choice. I've had the vaccine. My deputy leader's had the vaccine. We're both over 50. We made that as a personal choice, but we fully respect those who make the choice not to. And the idea of mandating vaccines is appalling, fundamentally and philosophically. It's also separately, pragmatically appalling for the care sector, which, as we know, has been struggling to fill vacancies and to keep staff, as it is equally appalling for the NHS. These are both sectors that need great staff, need to keep great staff. And, some really good people. I was speaking to the chief exec of one of the biggest care home operators, and he's absolutely devastated. He said, basically, they're going to have to close some homes and move residents because, they're just going to lose some staff. And he just says it's completely and utterly bonkers. And, it comes back to the issue, what does it mean for our society when we're literally forcing people to, when the government is forcing people to lose their jobs, lose their livelihoods, lose their income, lose their ability to pay bills, unless they take what is still essentially a vaccine under an emergency authorization.
Well, Richard, I tell you who should lose their job is Shadid Javid. I think I've said his name right, being a Welshman, given what he said yesterday, that if those over 65 don't get a booster, they shouldn't be allowed into restaurants or allowed on trains. I mean, what planet is this guy on?
I don't know, but I tweeted out that it was revolting. I was always worried. I never had any confidence about this man coming into this job. I knew he would be as bad as Hancock. And in a sense, he's just Hancock under a different name. That's the truth. And he's been completely and utterly hijacked by the bureaucratic medical establishment. And this is all part of an authoritarian control and a desire essentially to tell us how we're going to lead our lives. And what we thought was conspiracy theories 6, 12, 18 months ago, so often are actually coming to happen. You sort of start to think, maybe I'm being a bit naive, maybe I'm behind the curve. And no, it's really, really worrying. It's completely unacceptable. And I think the whole booster debate, frankly, needs some proper debate. And I think over the next month or so, this is going to get really difficult.
Yeah, I'm thinking of, I don't think I've seen so much hypocrisy in politics as I'm seeing right now, Richard, if I can be frank with you. And it's very difficult for members of the public to see what's going on and think to themselves, these politicians, Westminster, whatever you want to call them, are just hypocrites, a lot of them. That's what the general feel is the mood in the public, in my local rugby club here, for example. And talk about hypocrisy, the biggest theatre of hypocrisy has to be COP26. I nearly said CON26 then, which is what I really call it. I mean, what do you make of that?
So it is, the hypocrisy is extraordinary. And look, we'll talk about the messages I'm hearing on the doors, but I can tell you on the doors, and I'm knocking them many hours a day, people know that it's a con. People know that essentially the hypocrisy is huge. The leaders all flying there in their private jets, and then Boris yesterday suddenly going up there on the train, because of course he realised that actually his PR has been so woeful. And I think trust in politics has collapsed in the last 10 days. It started with COP26, and then it's of course continued with essentially with Tory sleaze, and so it's really damaging for democracy when, and I literally almost weep when I hear on the door someone says, "I'm done. I'm never voting again. A plague on all the houses. I'm done." Because today is such an important day in our calendar when we remember, we reflect, we commemorate, we give thanks to those who gave their lives and suffered so much so that we could enjoy democracy. And on the very same day, I'm seeing people on the streets giving up, and there is a tragic irony to that, Richard. Tragic irony.
Well, why do you think the current state of politics, why we got to this place? I mean, I think a lot of that distrust began over the whole Brexit debate, didn't it? I mean, there was kind of stuff, the Thatcher years and, and sleaze with John Major. We've had all that. We've moved on from there. We started to move away from that. But all of a sudden, there's been a revival of this corruption, hypocrisy within politics on our TV screens. Why do you think that is, Richard? What is happening in our political landscape right now?
I think it's actually quite simple. Decadence and complacency. We've had a conservative who I've now rebranded. I invented the word consocialist, and that's essentially what they are. They become the party of high tax, high regulation, authoritarian nanny state. But fundamentally, they've been in control for 11 years, and they think they can get away with anything. And the extreme of that is something that none of us could have imagined. That some bloke, some arrogant, patrician Tory MP, thinks that it's perfectly acceptable to earn £1 million on top of his MP's salary within a give or take 12-month period, much of which is actually helping an offshore tax haven that is clearly that is subject to huge allegations of corruption. And there he is out there, and he's voting. When he's out there, he's voting in our democracy, proxy voting. And you just think the arrogance of this man, and his statement yesterday said, and just like Owen Paterson's last week, no remorse, no regret, it's all fine. Frankly, if you want to complain about it, write to the office, but my voters will still vote for me at the next election. So the rest of you, frankly, can go and do well. It's complacent, it's decadent, and I think these people, they need to be taught a lesson, and that's what I'm planning to do, Richard. So
I'm guessing you're not in favour of MPs having a second job then. But let me ask you a question. What if they were...
Well, I'll clarify that. I was of the view that actually backbench, the truth is that being a backbench MP, it's not necessarily, it depends how you do it, but it's not necessarily a full-time job. And actually, there are many things where I always felt that it would be quite good to have backbench MPs that retain an interest in their particular sector of expertise or skill or profession, whether it's a doctor, a vet, or a dentist, or indeed a lawyer, that actually would bring useful additional current expertise into the House of Commons when discussing legislation. The theory of that works as long as it's not abused. And I think what's happened is it's been abused to the point now where I've actually had to change my view. And I think I've been educated actually by the journalist Dan Hodges from the Mail on Sunday, and his view, and I think this is where I'm moving towards, Richard, is that actually we're probably now, given the scale of abuse we've seen, in order to make it clear and simple that you need to pay MPs more. We can talk about what level, but that's another point. But you need to pay them more, in return for which there are no second paid jobs. And the only caveat to that, I think, is where people have to maintain professional qualifications. Because obviously you might be an MP for one term or half a term and then lose your job. So whether you're a doctor or a dentist or a vet, and in what I call critical public services, there's clearly a value to that. And we can have a carve out for that. But otherwise, that's my view.
Okay. Right, so let's talk about the Reform Party then, and why I've got you on the by-election. But before I say that, I just want to say thanks to all our subscribers and those watching here today. First of all, it was your fault that I got involved in politics. Well, you and Nigel at least, right? So the reason why I'm doing this blooming thing is because of you guys. And in 2019, I stood for the Brexit Party. It was one of the most incredible moments of my life, a time I will never forget for all the good reasons. And I made some incredible friendships that I still have today because of the Brexit Party. So I just want to say on record, thank you very much, Richard.
Richard, you were brave and brilliant.
It was great. Right, Reform then. So you've rebranded, you've had your conference. I watched the conference, by the way. One of the things that excited me for you guys, and I thought it was significant for you, was moving towards membership, which you announced at the conference.
Yes.
I thought that was hugely significant as a serious political party that you are, and wanting to win seats. And of course, you're standing in 2 by-elections in Bexley and Sidcup. Is it all Bexley, I think, and in North Shropshire with Kirsty Walmsley. Tell us, Richard, what is happening at the by-election where you are in Old Bexley and Sidcup right now?
So I'm the candidate for the by-election in Old Bexley and Sidcup. The election day is on Thursday, the 2nd of December. We're on the streets every day. We've got a fantastic team, activists coming down. I was canvassing last night with someone who'd driven down from Cumbria for a couple of days to help. So, there's huge energy, and there's no, we're knocking on the most doors of that. There's no doubt. Essentially, it's a 2-horse race between what is obviously a safe Conservative or Con-Socialist seat, but it's a similar majority to Chesham and Amersham. So it's a 2-horse race between them and myself. Labour are fiddling around, the Libs are nowhere, no one else is anywhere. So that's essentially what it is. And the mood has changed a lot in the last week. There's what started with sort of apathy, well, what can we do? Now the mood is actually frustration and anger at Tory sleaze. And the other thing that we're clearly seeing, because I'm campaigning for essentially a number of things, but one of them is we should have cheaper energy. And the way you get that is by using our own gas. We have 50 years worth of cheap, accessible gas literally under our feet. I call it the golden gas. And it's shale gas. We can safely access it. We should use that whilst investing in new technologies like nuclear and hydrogen and solar and things. But we should save our boilers. They work. And I have a simple message, which is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And let me tell you, we've knocked on thousands of doors, Richard. Not a single person thinks it's a good idea to get rid of our boilers. So we're campaigning hard on that. We're campaigning saying we should cut taxes to grow the economy faster. And we're the only party with the bold ambition of 0 waiting lists, with a plan how to get there. And to remind people, why have we been brainwashed into accepting waiting lists? No other Western nation has long waiting lists like we do. It's ridiculous. We need to be much more ambitious. So those are the key messages. The levels of illegal immigration pouring across the channel is growing by the week. And that comes up on the doorstep, and we're very clear. We welcome smart, lawful immigration to help our economy, but we should have 0 tolerance of illegal immigration. And
I think just to come on that point, in the last 9 days, we've had more migrants come into the UK than we've had in the whole of 2019, I think it is, or something like that. I mean, it's astonishing that a blind eye's been turned to this. Priti Patel, I don't know what she's doing. I don't even know why she's there. I mean, I'm surprised that, and I know, like yourself, I speak to people in the community and they say the same thing to me. What the hell is this government doing? I mean, so what's your USP? What is your unique selling point as a party then? You've mentioned the energy, the cost, low tax, big investment, all that kind of thing. And you've talked about, the migrant situation as well. But what is it? Why should people vote for you, given the fact that there are other smaller parties competing in this by-election? Heritage Party, for example, UKIP are there. I mean, I don't know why UKIP are there, because they're non-existent in my opinion these days. But don't you think that that's not going to help the vote share? And why are they competing?
Look, the reality is that at the next general election, whenever it is, we think it'll be 20 months away. There'll only be 5 parties that have 600 candidates. And that will be the 2 main parties, the Libs, Greens and Reform UK. No one else will be anywhere near. No one else will have, I think, more than 50 candidates. So we're in the polls. None of the other smaller parties, if you ask most people on the street, they wouldn't have heard of them. We've got a position, we've got a profile, and we've got an infrastructure and a scale. And so look, we're running not one, but two by-elections simultaneously. I launched in North Shropshire on Tuesday with our branded bus for Kirsty. And, so no one else can do that to the scale we're doing it. So what I'm saying to people is, look, frankly, don't waste your vote with one of the other small parties. In Old Bexley and Sidcup, it's a two-horse race between the Tories and ourselves. So row in behind us. And that's the reality. Look, it's a competitive world out there. First past the post is brutal. Don't waste your vote. Come in behind reform. Our USP is actually, it does what it says on the tin. This great nation of ours needs proper leadership and it needs proper reform amongst so many different areas. But fundamentally, we've got what I would call real, decent, traditional values of putting money in people's pockets, because an individual or a small business, Richard, will always spend £1 in their pocket and get better value, more bang for your bucks, higher productivity than some stuffy, bowler-hatted civil servant spending it on your behalf. The chances are they'll waste it. So, we trust the people in every sense. I want to put money in people's pocket. We want more direct democracy. We've got to reform the institutions that, frankly, are governing us so badly at the moment. And we need, frankly, I love referendums. I rather like the Swiss approach. I want a referendum on net zero. Maybe we'll come on to talk about that. Because, this is what the government is proposing, indeed, all the four main parties. This is life-changing stuff. And we should be able to talk about it rather than be cancelled and called deniers.
Well, let's talk about that, because there has been call and there's been polling suggesting that there is an appetite for a referendum on the net zero agenda the government has been pushing. I mean, where do you stand on that, Richard? I know you've already said, I'm a great believer in referendums. We should have them all the time here in Wales, because don't get me started on the Welsh government, for goodness sake, we'd be here all day. Do you think that it's not a constitutional issue, though? That's the issue that people have with referenda, isn't it? It has to be around a constitutional issue. So it doesn't really play into that, does it?
I don't buy that it has to be only on constitutional issues. In Switzerland, if it's a big issue that people feel strongly about, then if enough people sign a petition, then they have a national referendum. And I think that's what we should do. And this is life-changing. And in a sense, people are not being given a choice. And at the next election, there will be a choice, because Reform, as I say, will be the only party out of those five I mentioned who will be campaigning for a net smart agenda to reduce emissions. Look, we all care about the environment. Yeah. We all want to reduce emissions, but we need to do it in a smart way, not a net stupid way. And it's life-changing. They want to change the way we heat our homes, change the cars we drive. They want to tell us how much meat we can or can't eat, how much we can or can't travel, how and when. And the truth is, they want to reduce the amount of money in our bank balances, because that's what their net stupid green agenda will do. And this is life-changing. And therefore, frankly, we should have a grown-up, respectful, polite debate and then a vote on it. That's what the Swiss do all the time. And isn't it interesting? When the Swiss had a referendum just recently on net zero, do you know what the result was, Richard?
No.
The people rejected the government's plans. And guess what the percentage was? 52-48.
Oh, as if 50. Quote an old phrase. That's brilliant.
There we are.
That net zero thing. I mean, I've been speaking to a lot of people that you and I know as well, and they feel that this could cost Boris the next election, this whole net zero plan that he has in Green Agenda, because even amongst his own ranks, there are a lot of politicians who have seen him have this Damascus Road experience, if you like, of converting to green, because this wasn't the Boris we knew, in 2019. And people are suggesting to me that potentially this could cost him the next general election.
But the issue is that essentially, if people are concerned about it, the only place they can go is to vote Reform, because all the other four parties, the other three parties, they're all literally outbidding each other to be even more net stupid. So
I like that net stupid. I like that net stupid.
But it's the truth.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So, look, who knows what will happen? But if people are concerned, then look at our website, reformparty.uk. We've got a full plan there, what you should do, a smart energy plan that does reduce emissions, because we all want to, it's the right thing to do, but do it in a smart, sensible, affordable way where, we're world leading in technology, but we're not sending all our jobs and all our cash to the Chinese communist regime, because that really is just daft. And that is, of course, what they want to do. They want us to hair, shirt and virtue signal. They want us to make legally enforceable decisions and strategies. And then they talk about it. In China, they're sort of saying, yes, we'll try and get there by 2060. Will they? Hell, they've got no intention of. They're just going to laugh all the way to their bank and see us prostrate ourselves and impoverish ourselves. And it's incredibly stupid. And it's really important. And unless people do something about it, it will end up being tragic.
A question a lot of our viewers will be asking, watching this, Richard, and the question that many have as well, you've probably heard this, is why don't all these parties, I've mentioned already previously, Reclaim, Reform, Heritage Party, Freedom Alliance, there's so many parties now. I mean, why don't you guys work together to a common purpose and a common goal? Why don't you come together?
Look, actually, I talked to a number of people from some of those parties. On frequent occasions, I talked to Lawrence, and others. It's really a case of saying, right, well, what's the end game? Where does this go? And as I say, the end game is actually in the general election, and whenever that is. But we'll keep talking to various people, and there are some who we've got shared interests and shared values, and there are some, frankly, that are not for me and not for reform in any shape or imagination. And what I'm not prepared to do is to be hijacked or tarnished with some other people's issues and toxicity. And I think we've got a really bold, ambitious, positive agenda, and that's what I'm focusing on.
Okay, Richard, our time's almost up. I've loved having you on. I love speaking to you. I just want to ask you one final thing, though. Will Nigel Farage be making a comeback to frontline politics? I know I'm putting you on the spot here. But what's your thoughts on Nigel coming back? Our good mate.
But Nigel's, what we all know is Nigel's doing a great job at GB News. He's loving it. I know he's working really hard, but he is loving it. Look, he's a campaigner, and he's campaigning on issues that are really important. Some of which we've touched on today. And I guess, look, the honest answer is you need to ask Nigel, but I know that's his complete focus at the moment. Running political parties and being involved in political parties at the top level, there's a reason not many succeed, because it's really, really hard. And he's done it for a very long time. So I think he's enjoying a different career. But I guess in life we've all learned you should never say never. But you need to ask him yourself, Richard.
Well, Richard, I will do indeed. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I wish you every success and the best of luck in Old Bexley and Sidcup, and to Kirsty in North Shropshire as well. And I hope to get you back on another episode of Rich Politics very soon. Thanks for coming on.
Fantastic. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, everybody. Bye.